What we're going to do is we're going to take all of our rotten eggs and put them all in one basket, and then we're going to keep a really close eye on that basket. Hi, I'm Jeff, and welcome to A Million Movies. Today we're going to do the first of what I'm sure will be dozens of episodes about one of my favorite movies, The Great Escape. The Great Escape is a 1963 movie directed by John Sturges. John Sturges had previously directed movies like Gunfight at the OK Corral and The Magnificent Seven. And like those two previous movies, The Great Escape has a common theme of men coming together to go up against a stronger foe. And whether it's the Clanton gang from Gunfight at the OK Corral, whether it's Eli Wallach and his gang of bandits from The Magnificent Seven, or in this case, Nazi prison camp guards trying to keep Allied prisoners in the prison camp, they've got to fight and they've got to find a way out. And that's the story of The Great Escape. So let's get to it. The Great Escape is actually based on a real story of a mass escape from Stalag Luft III in Germany in 1944 by a large group of Allied POWs. And the film follows, not perfectly, but follows that story pretty closely. The basic premise is that the Nazis were frustrated by all the resources, the manpower, the time, everything it took to recapture escaped POWs. And so they decided we're going to take all of the prisoners who have a history of escaping from our prison camps, all these rotten eggs, as the commandant would call them, and they're going to bring them together in one super camp, one maximum security camp, escape-proof camp that they cannot get out of.
This is a new camp. It has been built to hold you and your men. It is organized to incorporate all we have learned of security measures. We have in effect put all our rotten eggs in one basket. And we intend to watch this basket carefully.
What the prisoners decide to do is, rather than continue to sort of bite at the edges, escaping one or two men at a time, they decide, we're in this maximum prison. We've got the best of the best when it comes to escape artists. Instead of taking out one or two men at a time, we're going to plan a mass escape, and we're going to get 250 men out at the same time.
How many are you taking out?
250.
250?
Yeah.
They're going to spread across Germany, heading for Spain, for Switzerland, for all different parts. It will sap resources, and the Nazis will be distracted from fighting and from delivering resources to the actual front as they try and track down these POWs. Now, some of the POWs, all of them, really wanted to get to freedom, but a secondary consideration for them was to really be this distraction from the Nazis. Now, you can find tons of essays and stories about the impact The Great Escape had on later films. There's no denying it. We'll probably cover that as well in a future episode. You can see direct references to it in The Shawshank Redemption. And you can also see it in other escape films like Escape from Alcatraz. There are just some elements of this film that were just so powerful that they carried over. Even creative elements like Elmer Bernstein's fantastic score are still being used as reference points in movies and even TV commercials decades later. But what I want to talk about today are the characters specifically. Now, when I think about this movie, if you asked me before I started doing a review of it again what the names of any of the characters were, I probably couldn't give you a name. What they've done is they've reduced each character down to their function. So you've got the Scrounger, the Cooler King, Big X, the Forger, all these different roles, and it sort of just defines who they are and their function. But they didn't keep the characters sort of real superficial and flat like that. Every character has sort of a dichotomy to them, a flip side of their coin. Something about that, something that happens to them, or something in their personality, is almost a perfect counterbalance to their role in the film, and that's what I want to discuss today. The leader of the POWs is known as the SBO. I mean, that stands for Senior British Officer, and he's played by James Donald. Now, the SBO is a veteran escape artist. He has tons of experience, knows exactly how to get the team planned and ready to go for an escape. The dichotomy with this character, though, is he's been injured. He was injured in World War I and World War II, and as he's in the movie, you see he has a pronounced limp. He knows he'll be a hindrance during the escape. So even though he's the most experienced and the one who's going to help really sort of pull the team together, he is not actually going to be able to go on this escape. Under the SBO, the mastermind of this actual escape is a character named Big X, and he's played by Richard Attenborough. Now, Big X is the man responsible for determining exactly where and when the tunnels are going to be dug, who gets to go, which role everybody has. He is in the details about every possibility that could happen. He's working on contingency plans. He's figuring out every step of the way to get the maximum number of POWs out of the camp. When he actually makes his escape, he pairs up with another character played by Gordon Jackson, who's known as Intelligence. And Gordon Jackson's character is there to sort of get the insights to when guard movements are happening or what other buzz is going on within the camp so they can time their escape perfectly and get as many people out as possible. So here you have Big X and Intelligence making their escape. They've got all the contingencies planned. They've got all the expectations. They know exactly what's going to happen, where they're going to go, and how they're going to get there. The flip side for them is that despite all that planning and all those contingencies, it's a simple slip-up that gets them in trouble.
Au revoir. Good luck. Thank you.
Our next character is called the Tunnel King, and he's played by Charles Bronson. And the Tunnel King is responsible for digging the tunnels. He's the master digger. And at this camp, he started 17 different tunnels, some more successful than others. He's currently working on 3 tunnels, which they've named Tom, Dick, and Harry. He has dug these things. He's going down 30 feet so that the Nazis' ground-penetrating sonar won't pick up the tunnel. He's fighting cave-ins. He's digging through the hard earth. He's figuring out all these things. He's working night and day. The challenge for him, the sort of flip side that the writers have put in for him is that he is in the tunnels all the time, but the character also suffers from claustrophobia. And he has to deal with the anxiety of claustrophobia balanced against the mission he's got to do of digging these tunnels so these men can get out. James Coburn plays a character named Manufacturer. And the manufacturer is responsible for building whatever needs to be built. He builds pickaxes out of spare parts. He builds bellows so they can move fresh air in and out of the tunnel so the diggers don't suffocate down in the tunnel. He is the guy who makes whatever is needed to be made. He's a very ingenious guy. The interesting part for him, the sort of the flip side again for the manufacturer, is that when he actually makes his escape, he doesn't get to make anything. He's not a manufacturer anymore. He steals a bike to get out of town. He hops on a train. And ultimately, it's the resistance that helps him. They protect him when he finds himself sitting next to a group of Nazis. And they also point him and hand him off to resistance members who then eventually move him on to Spain and to freedom. The next character I want to talk about is the Forger, and he's played brilliantly by Donald Pleasance, one of my favorite characters in this movie. The Forger is responsible for making all of the documents, all the papers that the escapees will need in case they're stopped somewhere along the way to freedom. So he's got to do passport kind of documents, those visas, anything that says who they are and will get them past the Gestapo and the Nazis. Now, the ironic thing about the character here is that he spends so much time doing so much detailed work, and he has to do it at night or else the guards will spot it. And he's done all these documents. He's gotten so detailed on it and working under such low light that his eyes are strained, and he's got progressive myopia. He's got progressive nearsightedness to the point that he can barely see beyond a hand in front of his face. So he's done all this great work, and at one point, Big X says to him he's a hindrance. He'll be an obstacle. He'll be something that could get them in trouble when they escape if he can't see. And it's only because another POW, the Scrounger, decides he'll be responsible for the forger that he's even able to go.
Colin's not a blind man as long as he's with me. And he's going with me.
But it's ironic in that a man who needed to use his eyes to play the part that he had to do for this escape, that work could lead to him not being able to go on the escape itself. And James Garner plays the Scrounger. Now, James Garner was pretty well known at the time. He had been in the TV series Maverick. He is the person who, whenever you need something, he can find it. He finds metal pieces to be used as pickaxe tools. He also builds a relationship with one of the guards that helps him get the papers that they will need to use for the forger. So he's the guy who's got the connections. If I had to connect it to another movie, if you've seen Shawshank Redemption, he's Red. He's Morgan Freeman's character, the guy who can get anything into and out of the camp. So that's the Scrounger. The ironic thing about James Garner's character is that when they make their escape, even though he's found everything they needed for the escape to get them out of the camp, he decides to scrounge one more thing, and he scrounges an airplane. And he's got the forger, Donald Pleasance, with him, and they're deciding they're going to fly to freedom. He's done this perfectly. Everything's been perfect so far. He gets in the air. Unfortunately, the plane blows an engine. So the one thing he scrounges that he really personally needs is the one thing that isn't perfect. The plane crashes. Donald Pleasance is actually killed by the Nazis, and the Scrounger, James Garner, is recaptured. And finally, we're going to talk about probably the most iconic character of The Great Escape, the one that probably comes to mind when most people think of The Great Escape, and that's Steve McQueen, who plays the Cooler King. Now, Steve McQueen, his role is to sort of bite on the edges. It's going to take a long time to dig these tunnels, and if they're not constantly trying to escape, then the guards and the commandant might get suspicious that they're planning something bigger and start looking for tunnels. So Steve McQueen's job is to constantly be trying to escape. Him and another POW are always trying to get out, and they do get out frequently, but they're always pushing the edges. He's the rebel. He's the independent spirit. He's the most freedom-loving of them all. He's the one who's got to get out, and he's always trying to find a way out. And sometimes he does it just to sort of put the guards on alert, to make sure that they're thinking that the prisoners are actually trying to escape. And other times he's using the escape attempts to get out and do reconnaissance. So he finds out, for example, where the local train station is and where the nearby town is, so that when the POWs do escape, they know which directions to go to get transportation to get as far away as possible, as quickly as possible. The ironic thing for Steve McQueen is he's the most freedom-loving, he's the most rebellious, but his character spends the most time in solitary confinement because he is captured so many times and he gets put into the cooler. The sort of iconic part of him, other than the great motorcycle chase that he does through the countryside, is that when he goes into the cooler, even though he may be there for 10 or 20 days by himself, he always tries to take a baseball glove and a baseball in there, and that's how he sort of keeps himself, that rebellious spirit. I'm going to be in the cooler, I'm going to be punished, but I'm going to do it on my terms. So you've got the most freedom-loving, independent character of the film, who is the most frequently stuck in a prison cell by himself in solitary confinement. Now, there were other characters I didn't even cover with this. I didn't cover the mole or the ferret or dispersal or the tailor. All these roles are critical to the escape. And they're all defined by the role, and they all have different issues that they all have to work through. And that's really what makes The Great Escape such a great movie to watch. The direction's fantastic. The production value is really good. The costumes and the locations are all spot on. And I've already mentioned the music is fantastic with Elmer Bernstein's score. But what really makes The Great Escape a classic, sort of a masterpiece, is the depth that they built into each character. Instead of being a very two-dimensional character type of just the Forager or the Scrounger or Big X, instead of just being very two-dimensional, we get a little bit of an interest in each character where we've got a rooting interest and we're pulling for each of them. And that's what helps make The Great Escape such a well-rounded and fuller story than just a standard escape movie. So let's go to the countdown. Today we talked about a couple of movies. We talked about 2 other Sturges movies. We talked about Gunfight at the OK Corral, and we talked about The Magnificent Seven, and of course we talked about The Great Escape. So that brings our total to 999,960. So I want to thank you for joining me today as I talk about one of my favorite movies, The Great Escape. If you did enjoy this video, I hope you'll click the subscribe button. That really helps me out. And if you have any feedback or suggestions or comments you want to share, please put them in the comment section below. I love to read those. Maybe you can help make this series even better. So I'd really appreciate that. I hope I'll see you next time on our next episode of A Million Movies.